Hi, this is Natalie from DachaLiving.com, and today I'm in my home office, as in the pool, because I don't have a home office yet, sharing how I got rid of my acid reflux, or commonly known as GERD, or GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. Um, this is going to be such a good video, so I'm glad that you're here. I got GERD at a really, really young age. It was fresh out of college. I was maybe 21 or 22, and I had too much orange juice one day, and I was in Spain, and I begged my mom to take me to the doctor, even though like it's kind of weird navigating the hospital in a foreign place. And I just had too much orange juice, and there was like fresh burns in my esophagus. But there were also signs of having been burned stuff earlier. So I actually caught my GERD very early. I had what was called silent GERD. And essentially it's just you have GERD, but you don't really know it yet. Most people who have GERD or chronic heartburn feel it in their like sternum or like breastbone area. You get like pain here, and it can radiate all the way to the top or the back of your throat. So there's lots of different things that you can do to reduce the symptoms of GERD, but I'm going to tell you about why you probably have it and how you can, and like the three main things you can do to get rid of it. I would say there's like a million things, and working on your whole lifestyle and really examining how you're taking care of yourself is going to be the biggest factor in whether you get rid of your GERD or not. But there's three main things. Like if I can recommend to you three things that you can do, you can probably get rid of most of your symptoms and hopefully be on the path towards healing. Because the thing with GERD is it's not really a disease in itself. I think GERD is actually more of a symptom of something deeper, an inability to digest life. And we're going way too fast, and that's why we're like vomiting it up in a way, because we're just cramming way too much onto our plates, both on a physical, literal plate, but also off the plate. How many activities do you have going on in your life? How many activities are you cramming onto your kids' plates? Like, how much are you forcing yourself to digest in your life? Once you start asking yourself that question, you'll understand why you're manifesting that sort of behavior and that sort of pattern on your plate as well. All the spiritual stuff aside, let's talk about specifics. So the first thing I want to talk about is my experience with when I went to the doctor for the first time and they diagnosed me with GERD. They gave me Prilosec and they gave me Tums, basically. So they're just like neutralized in the stomach so that you're not like burping all that acid up into your throat. Now, most doctors prescribe Prilosec because there's this idea that if you have heartburn, it's because you're making too much stomach acid. And for the people who are making too much stomach acid, Tums and Prilosec are great. In addition, Prilosec and Tums are great if you have an ulcer or you have holes in your stomach and you need to heal before you can start adding other foods in. So if you have an ulcer or if you have too much stomach acid, which is tough to figure out unless you actually go in there, then Prilosec and Tums are great for you. This video is for people who actually probably have too little stomach acid and don't know it yet. And I'm going to tell you why. So what ends up happening though when you take Prilosec or you take Tums is you start weakening your stomach. Now, the purpose of stomach acid is to be able to digest food. It's your digestive fire. So you want to have a good amount of acid in there so that not only can you digest your food, but that you pulverize it enough so that you're able to actually assimilate all the nutrition that's available to you in your food. So you want to be able to absorb vitamins and minerals and all this amazing things. But if your stomach acid is non-existent or your stomach is weak, then you won't digest efficiently, you'll feel bloated, you'll feel sluggish because you're not going to be metabolizing all of these wonderful minerals that are available to you. And in terms of the process of digestion, for me, I wasn't getting heartburn because I had too much stomach acid. What was happening is I actually had way too little. And what would happen is my food would sit there for longer than it should because there wasn't enough stomach acid to digest it. So food would sit in there. Bacteria would feed on the food in my stomach, and what would happen is the bacteria would like fart, right? And so when that happens, gas builds up, and the gas can do three things. Number one, it stays exactly where it is and you feel bloated. Eventually, at some point, it goes on to do two things. It goes either down and you fart, if you're lucky, or it comes up and you belch it out. And when you belch, it just happens to take stomach acid with it, and that's often how you get heartburn. So, one interesting side effect I had silent GERD, so I didn't feel the burn, but I did have something called tonsil stones. So I had these little holes in my tonsils that were probably burned by stomach acid. And then bacteria would get into those little crevices and feed on food bits. And then every couple of weeks, I would just like cough out one of these tonsil stones. You can Google it, it's really gross. Not my personal tonsil stones, but other people. It's just disgusting. And I kind of just accepted that that's something that I would have. But when I started healing my GERD, those tonsil stones also happened to go away. So the first thing I would say if you're struggling with GERD is check your diet. There's probably two things I would say are the biggest factors in terms of your diet that will probably be contributing to your GERD. The first one is dairy, and the second one is sugar. For a lot of people, gluten can be very inflammatory for them, and so if you think that might be where you are, you might try cutting out gluten for a while. Especially if you're celiac, you're going to have all sorts of crappy inflammatory effects. But for me, cutting out dairy alone or just drastically reducing it, like 85%, cut out a lot of my GERD symptoms. So that was a really huge benefit for me. And I don't even cut it out entirely. I had just been eating too much dairy, and that's what was really causing those really stinky tonsil stones and the GERD. So that went away. A lot of my IBS went away. GERD was really a precursor to IBS. When I didn't pay attention to it soon enough, it eventually led into IBS. A lot of people who have GERD have IBS too. It's like fun. So dairy is huge. If you don't want to cut out 100% of it, if you're like transitioning into it, I would say look at the areas that you are willing to cut out. Like if you love ice cream, like me, if I eat ice cream, it's usually coconut based or cashew based. So Delicious has a great brand that is really, really good. So I would recommend getting those. And then once in a while, if I get dairy ice cream, it has to be good. Like I will not compromise getting crappy ice cream that makes me feel crap. So if I'm going to eat something with dairy, I make sure it's really, really good. And the next one is sugar. So I talked about how your gut bacteria will create gas that you will belch up. So one of the biggest ways to feed the bacteria in your gut unnecessarily and very quickly is to feed it lots of sugar. So that's a quick way to really speed up the process of getting gassy. For some people, not just sugars, but also certain types of fiber. Like if you look at something called the FODMAP diet, FODMAP, this is just eliminating a lot of gassy producing foods. So if you're sensitive to FODMAPs, then you might be belching a lot. But I say if you just look at sugar alone, that's a huge one for a lot of people. Okay, and the last thing, and this one's huge, especially considering what I was talking about in the very beginning, how you want to make sure that you're not putting too much on your plate to digest, because then you're just going to overload your stomach and it's going to have nowhere to go but up. But also look at your life. Like how much are you forcing yourself to digest? How many tasks are on your to-do list? Stress. If you can cut out dairy, sugar, and stress, like 50 to 80% of the stress in your life, I promise you that GERD will go away very quickly. And I'm not a doctor, I'm not making a claim, but trust me, like it's huge. So one thing that you can do, if you can't get rid of the stress in your life, is at least create a non-stressful state when you're eating. So have you ever been on the phone and someone comes up behind you and tries to have a conversation with you while you're on the dang phone? It's like your brain can't process having two conversations at once, right? So you can't hear what the other person's saying if you're listening fully to this person. And your gut and your brain are the same way. If you are on your phone while you're eating, or if you're on a computer while you're eating, or you're reading, your brain doesn't register that you're eating. So the consequences of that are one, don't produce saliva, which are essential to the initial parts of digestion. And two, you don't even produce stomach acid. And then all of a sudden food just kind of like lumps or drops into your gut, and it's like surprise, and the gut has not prepared with saliva and stomach acid. So remember, you want to be efficient. So if food's just dropping into there, it's going to take a lot longer for your stomach to get the memo. Oh, hey, we're digesting. So there needs to be stomach acid in there. And the way to do that is to bring awareness to the food that you're eating. If you're not aware of yourself eating, you're going to have problems digesting it because your stomach is not physically present because you're not present. If you take a few deep breaths to look at your food and smell your food and really take the time to taste and chew your food, you're going to greatly improve the amount of digestive fire and juices available to you, so that food will digest faster and you'll also absorb more nutrition from it so you feel more energized. This is enormous. This is an absolutely critical part to improving your digestion, your GERD, and your overall vitality for life. And one more thing I wanted to add, excuse me, just because I saw a note here that I left for myself. When you cut out sugar, when you cut out sweets, make sure that you add in sweetness to your life. Because if there's no sweetness, if there's no pleasure in your life, you're going to turn to sweets to create that sensation of pleasure. And, you craving sweets all the time, if that's you, because it's been me and sometimes still is, it's usually because I am not taking any time for pleasure. I'm not taking any time to rest. And one of the best places to find pleasure in your life is through eating. So if you're bypassing that opportunity to savor and enjoy, you're going to always be wanting more because you haven't been present and aware during the times that were available to be sweet moments. I hope that makes sense. So if you found this video helpful, subscribe. I'm probably going to do another video on IBS or IBD. So join the family, subscribe. I'll talk to you guys soon, and I love you very, very much, and have a great day.